Let's Talk Ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin, where we talk everything and all things ministry.
Well, hey, everybody, it is Wednesday, and it is time for us to talk ministry. Let's talk ministry with Pastor Dennis Martin. So grateful to have you with me on today, and just excited about this day. I'm excited just about life, period, as I keep living the best life and just keep enjoying what God is doing. And it's a blessing to be in the land of the living every day, and we're just grateful to be alive. Today, we're going to be sharing with you, and I want you to share this with someone, especially those of you that are in ministry, those of you that are feeling the pressure of ministry. I want you to share it with someone that may need to hear this today, that we'll be sharing with you, and I know that it will bless your life. And for those of you that are tuning in and you are not here on the live, but you are watching at later, you're watching the replay, I want you to share with someone, make comments, or do whatever it is that you do. But we're just grateful to have you with us on today. So by all means, please share it with someone today as we're going to be talking ministry. Today we're going to talk about, today we're going to be sharing about being under pressure, under the pressure to fit in. And this is what I believe is going to bless us. We want to talk about it, want to share it with you today. And I just sort of feel that it's going to help somebody and bless somebody as we are sharing today and as we are engaged today in this particular topic and subject, under pressure to fit in to ministry. And so it's important that we share it today and that we will be a part of this discussion. You know, in every area of life, people are under pressure to fit in. And it's at all ages, all stages of life. People are under the pressure to fit in. You've got those that are under the pressure to fit in school. You've got those that are under the pressure to fit in the workplace, in families, wherever it may be. So every area of life has some type of pressure where someone's trying to fit in. And in the midst of trying to fit in, they get under that pressure of doing things and trying everything they can to fit into in these areas of life. School, for instance, there we saw a few months ago of the scandals of even the parents that had the money, that felt the pressure to make sure that their children that may not have been academically capable of doing things, they wanted to use their influence and their monies for them to fit in. Even when it comes in the workplace, people, I talk to people all the time that says, maybe I need to find something else to do, or they're trying everything they know to try to fit in, even into the workplace. And then, of course, there's some people that are trying to fit into families. They don't know where their place is, even though they are in a family, they were born in a family, they are part of a family, they don't know where they fit in. And so sometimes it is the pressure of trying to find our place, or the pressure of trying to fit in. And today I want to talk to you just for a few minutes about the pressure of trying to fit into ministry. And I want to examine and show you a few things and talk about a few things. And let's have a discussion about this pressure of trying to fit in, not just anywhere, but to fit into ministry. And many of us that have been called into ministry, God has called you. So the question is not whether you have a call on your life. The question is not whether God has called you or not. You know you're called. You know you have a call for ministry, a call into ministry. You know that the hand of God is on you. And some of you are just getting started. There's some of you that have been in it a while, but you are starting to understand that even in the midst of all this, somewhere in your mind, in your spirit, in your emotions. You're feeling the pressure to fit in. It has been something that has been created in our world today, in church, in the Christendom, that has got us where we are under the pressure. Even with the call of God, we're under pressure many times to fit in. And so I want to talk to you today about this because I believe that it's going to bless you. Number one, so many times we have put ourselves under pressure trying to fit in, because a lot of times we are trying our best to fit into places, and it's not sometimes other people that have put pressure on us. Sometimes we put pressure on ourselves because we're trying to fit into everyone's group, everyone's circle, everyone's mode. And I'm a little bit late. I'm going to tell you why we're doing that. But we are putting pressure on ourselves. And some of us have got to understand that the pressure that we're putting on ourselves sometimes is very unnecessary pressure that we're putting on ourselves. Why would I say it's unnecessary pressure? Because some things that we're putting ourselves under pressure to fit into may not be the time for us to be trying to do that. And everything comes with timing. Timing is important with God. It's important with us. It's important with ministry. It's important with the things. And so we will put ourselves under pressure, whether you're a pastor, whether you're an evangelist, whether you're a prophet, or whatever your title may be. Sometimes you're putting yourself under pressure that you need not put yourself under. For instance, if you're a pastor and you're just getting started, you hear stories of people that say, well, we've been here a year and look at the growth we have. And sometimes you've been there a year and you haven't experienced that type of growth. So you start doing a lot of other things, trying to get growth to come, and you have forgotten and don't believe the scripture and believe the Bible we preach from, where one has planted, one has watered, but at the end of the day, God is the one that gives the increase. And so the pressure that you put yourself under and the strain and the stress that you put yourself under trying to do what somebody else is doing and keep up with what they're doing or match what they say they have going on, you put yourself under that pressure trying to fit and find a place of where your voice will be relevant, where your voice will be heard, where you think you would have something going on. And so many times that pressure is put on us by us. It's not put on us by anyone else. We put the pressure on ourselves because we're putting the pressure on ourselves trying to keep up or trying to match. I was in the store last night and I saw something. And this is my first time observing it. I had never seen it before, but I saw it last night and I thought to myself, wow. I was in Walmart, it was, and when I was checking out, and this has been since 2016 from what I saw on the sign, says as of whatever date, April, whatever, 2016 or whatever it was, we would no longer match. We would no longer do matching of prices from other stores when they used to have it where if you could find it cheaper, bring it to us and we will match it. They said we would no longer do matching. We just going to lower our prices and have good prices. And when I thought about that, I thought about us. A lot of times we're under pressure because we're trying to match what we see somebody else doing down the street or what we see somebody else doing on Facebook or their ministries. And so in us trying to match them, we lose focus on what we're supposed to do. And now the pressure is on. And so we put a standard, not by what God said we should do, but we put a bar, we put a standard trying to match others. So therefore we put pressure on ourselves to say if this don't happen in 6 months. That's why so many people start churches, start ministries, and then they give up. It's very seldom now do you find longevity in churches. That's why they give up. They go past the 6 months, go past a year, go past a year and a half, 2 years, and then they out. Why? Because they say, well, I don't see no growth. Well, some things take time. Some things has nothing to do with a person's greatness as we think it. Sometimes it has to do with the areas where they are. Sometimes it has to do with the communities where they are. And so we've got to stop putting ourselves under that kind of pressure. So sometimes, again, we are the ones that put ourselves under that pressure. Then you've got to understand that every place is not for you to fit in for long periods of time. We've got to come to understand this, and I want to be very honest and truthful with you. Sometimes we're trying to fit in places that are temporary. We're under pressure trying to fit into places that you're not going to be there long enough to fit like that. And you need to understand that's where prayer comes into being, because if you're praying, then you pray and understand that you cannot, you may not be there for that length of time that you think you're going to be there. Some people are going to be there for a long time. Then there's some that you're trying to fit in somewhere that you're not going to be there for a long time. It's just not going to happen. And you got to understand that. That's why you really got to pray, because you're not going to be there for a long time, which brings me to my next point, and that is this. Sometimes the place is only for a season. So you're under pressure trying to fit in a place that you're only going to be for a season. It's not for the long haul. You won't be there 10 years. You won't be there 15 years. You're going to be there for a season. Everyone nod your head. Say that with me. Only a season. Now, what is a season? A season in the natural, 3.5 months. But now a season spiritually, you could be there for a year. You could be there for 2 years. That could be the season that you're in. But now understand that you must know that fitting in for a season, there may be a purpose for you being there for a season. And don't put yourself under pressure for a seasonal thing. It's like those that have seasonal jobs in the IRS and different places. When it's tax time, they'll hire people for seasonal jobs. In other words, we want you to fit in, do your work while you're here. But don't get comfortable, because this is seasonal. Do not get comfortable, because this is seasonal. You don't need no desk with your name on it. You don't need a desk with your name on it. You do not. Do you hear me? I'm going to say it again. You don't need a desk with your name on it. You don't need no office. You don't need any of that, because it's seasonal for you. So what you do is you come every day, do your work, do what you're supposed to do. Don't live under the pressure of trying to make it happen and make something happen that you're only here seasonal to do. And some of us, we're under pressure in things. Sometimes God allows you to go to a place to learn things for a season. You may be there for a period of time. When I traveled with my uncle, my late uncle, I traveled with him, and I was with him from 79 and until 1986. And my season with him, I would go back and help him out and do things and come to camp meeting and everything. But it was a time of training. So I didn't put myself under the pressure. I did and learned my lesson, got the things out I needed. And then when the time was up, then I moved. Why? Because it was seasonal. Sometimes we're under pressure, trying our best to fit into a place that's only for a season or only for a short period of time. And you can't allow yourself to get under that kind of pressure. Many times people are trying to help us to get under that pressure. And so it's seasonal. So I want you to remember that. I need you to really understand that, because that's important. If you can ever understand that, then you're going to conquer a lot of your anxieties and things that you're going through and stuff that's happening. And this is not just ministry, even on jobs and other places. If you can ever get that in your spirit, then you'll understand. And when that time is up, you'll know it. And when it's something that you don't have to struggle with and go through. So stop putting yourself under pressure to fit into somewhere that's just seasonal. Do you get that? I need you to help me on this. It's very important that we get that on today. Some places are seasonal, so don't put yourself under that pressure. Well, let's move on. Another one is fitting in and being out of place is just as bad as not knowing your place. Uh, Sometimes we're putting ourselves under pressure to fit in, and then when we fit in, we still don't know our place because sometimes we are fitting into places and putting ourselves under pressure. And when I say fitting in, I'm not necessarily talking about a church, but I'm talking about even in ministry, just fitting in as an evangelist. There's some places as an evangelist, you got to understand. I traveled full time as an evangelist for many, many years and still do travel as an evangelist sometimes, but I travel full time as an evangelist. And I came to understand that I was putting myself under pressure, trying to fit in and go places where other people were going. And then I had to get to the place that I started understanding that every place is not for me. Why should I put myself under the pressure of trying to get to places that maybe I was not supposed to fit in? I was not called to be there. So I had to understand that. And when you start getting that, and when you start understanding that, then you start saying to yourself that I cannot fit in everywhere where I'm not supposed to fit in or be. And some churches, when you go to run revival, you're not called to go and run revival at every church. You're not called to run revival in every place. You're not called to be in every spot and every place. And sometimes we miss it because we're trying our best to do that, and we're trying our best to put ourselves in those places. And God is saying, well, at the end of the day, that's not your spot. That's not your place to be. It's not your place to even preach. Every door, stop putting yourself under pressure. Every door that's open for you don't mean God opened it. And then every place you go don't mean that you're going to be effective as you think you would be, because you put yourself under pressure to fit in. You put yourself pushing, trying to fit in, trying to have a voice, trying to do things. And so it brings me again that trying to fit in and being out of place is just as bad as not knowing your place. And sometimes we've got to get off from under the pressure of trying to be what others said we should be. In other words, sometimes we put ourselves under pressure in ministry, and I'm talking all phases now. We put ourselves under pressure trying to be what everyone said we are, and trying to be what we maybe or possibly are not anointed to do. Now, this is very important. Just because you're in ministry and just because I'm in ministry don't mean we are anointed to do everything. Did I say that? I did. Just because you're in ministry don't mean you are anointed to do everything. It don't mean that you're anointed to do it all. I know you may think you can do it all, but you don't mean you're anointed to do everything. And you got to stop letting people, stop letting people push you to possibly putting yourself under pressure, trying to live up to the name they put on you. Example, most of the time, hey, how y'all doing? Most of the time, when people say, they'll say, oh, Pastor Martin, he's a preaching machine. And they've been saying that years. He's a preaching machine. I see my longtime friend, Barbara Smith, on here. And Barbara would say, you don't have to ask, did he preach? Just ask, did he get up? That's always been a saying about me. And those are wonderful things. I appreciate all of them. But I refuse to put myself under the pressure of trying to live up to what people put on me. And sometimes that's what we do. We're under pressure in ministry trying to live up to what people put on us. They said Martin is a preaching machine. Well, I know I'm not a machine. I'm a human. But every time I get up, I shouldn't have to try to live up to that name. That's why my bio, when I put my bio, I don't put everything on the bio. I just make it a bio that's nice and pleasant and sweet and just do it. So when I get up, I don't have to live up to the bio. don't have to live up to everything everyone says. And you got to know that, because sometimes people have you doing things, and you'll be you're under the pressure of trying to do stuff. Listen, people be like, "Oh my God, can't nobody sing like you." Now, don't let nobody fool you. Don't let people hype you and put you under pressure, because even though you may be a good singer, don't mean you can sing everything. Okay? Just because you can sing don't mean you can sing everything. Just because you may be a great, you may be in ministry and may not be a person that's a hooper, as we call it in our churches, especially in the black church, where he hooped tonight, or he tuned tonight, or he went in. You may not be the one that when you get up and you get the crowd is ready and they listen at you, but they ready for you to say, like sometimes when I say with my son when I'm preaching, I'll tell him, "Come on, lock and load, let's go." I said, "Come on, let's ride," and stuff like that. Now you may be a stone flat-foot teacher. You hear what I'm saying? You may be a teacher. Just teach the word. Ain't no hoop in you, because if you hoop, we lost. Because the keys are off and everything. If you go to hooping, we go like, "Oh my God," and you may not be that. But now sometimes you'll put yourself under pressure of trying to do it because you know that's what people want you to do, and you have to understand that you can't always do that. You've got to don't put yourself under pressure. Do what you do, because those that are going to be blessed are going to be blessed by what you do. And so if you're not a hooper, if you're not one that can do that, don't worry about it. Don't worry about that. That's not something you need to worry about. If you can't sing everything, sing what you can, but don't put yourself under that kind of pressure. Now, I teach and preach, but there's some things I know I possibly can't do. So I don't put myself under that pressure. And if I feel the anointing of God, then I'm flowing. There's some of you, you're not exalters. There's some of you can't carry a service. You just can't do it. And it's nothing wrong with saying, "I'm not comfortable with that." So if you're not comfortable with that, then you don't do it. Don't let nobody pressure you to do it. Don't put yourself in a position and get out of place of stuff that you can't do or you're not comfortable with doing. Nothing wrong with that. There's no shame to that. Yes, I'm a preacher, and yes, I can do this, I can do that, but that right there, I'm not comfortable with. And if you're not comfortable with it, don't do it. Don't put yourself under the pressure. Get out from under that pressure. Just say, "I can't do that." Let somebody else do it. I can preside and stuff like that. But then there's some things I may not feel comfortable with doing. And if I don't feel comfortable, I'll say, let someone else do that. Why? Because I don't want to put myself in a position already knowing that there's something possibly that I can't do. And so these are the things that we put ourselves under pressure trying to fit in to stuff that we possibly cannot do. And I want to encourage those of you, I'm serious, stop allowing people to thrust you into stuff that is possible that you can't do, or you may not be comfortable with, doing. If you're not comfortable, then don't do it. There's a whole bunch of stuff I know I can do, but then there's some things I'm just not comfortable in doing. And if I'm not comfortable, I don't do them. Somebody said, "What is your success?" I've learned the difference in knowing what I can do and what I can't do. And what I can't do, I don't try to do it unless it's something that I just have to do, or the anointing hits me and I can do it. It's like years ago there was a pastor. He couldn't read, he couldn't write, but when you put him in the pulpit and put a mic in his hand, he could read like he had been to school. And when he fell under that anointing, it was something that hit him. And so I want you to keep on understanding that this is important for us to get this and understand that you cannot allow people to thrust on you and put on you things that will put you under pressure that you cannot do. I want you to get that. That's important. And I want to encourage you also, because we've got this thing today that people to make you feel sort of awkward and make you feel that you don't have a place or you can't fit. And I've said this before. I was sharing with my wife today, and I've shared with my church many times. I'm sharing with you. Then I'll move to these last 2 points, and I'll be done. I was sharing with my church and sharing with my wife. They brought out the list of Forbes, brought out the list of those that were have made great increase in finances, and I think it was Jay-Z that's now a billionaire. And they said, I think it's who is that? Someone else is not too far behind him as being a billionaire. I think it's P Diddy or whoever that's not too far. And then they start going down the list. And then they talked about the richest lady. Forgot who it was in as far as downloading music. I think it was Rihanna that they talked about how much she's worth, so many millions of dollars. And so a lot of times in church, we create this thing where we tell people, don't hang with people that don't have what you have or whatever. And I've said to you often that, don't put yourself under the pressure trying to hang with folk when they don't want you around. The old thing on Perry Mason said that even a dog can distinguish between a trip and a kick. Even a dog can distinguish. He knows when you tripped over him and he knows when you kicked him. So stop wasting your time trying to be around people that don't want you there. Don't put yourself under that pressure of trying to fit in when you can sense people don't want you in their company. Because take it from me, somewhere down the line, they will be humbled and they will understand that as much as you think you got it as popular as you think you are, there's somebody that don't think you are worthy to be in their company. I always said those that got millions, that's one thing, but those that got billions, that's another. That means that B is a different from the M. B means you got more money than those that got the millions. And so what if a billionaire says, I don't want you millionaires hanging with me. Y'all go over there somewhere and hang with your own folk. We've got to break that and stop putting ourselves under that foolishness and that type of pressure. Because let me tell y'all something. This is reality. I guess y'all don't know it. Maybe you haven't heard it. But there's some folk that you ain't never heard of. There's some people you don't know. They not on social media. They don't have a Facebook account. They don't have none of that. But when they open their mouths, they are so anointed. People are delivered. Folk have been saved and delivered through their ministries. And they don't have big churches. Some of them have large churches. Some of them don't have big churches at all. But people have been delivered from drugs and alcohol. Why? Because they refuse to be under the pressure of fitting in. They just want to do the will of God. And that's where you take yourself out from under the pressure. Lord, I want to be pleasing to you and do that you've called me to do. All right. So now let me get to these last few. Thank y'all so much for hanging in with me. I'm getting there. I'm getting there. Number 6, and then I've got one more. Fitting in may not put you in the spotlight. Take yourself out from under the pressure, because sometimes God has you where he wants you, but you're just not in the spotlight. You're working behind the scenes. Sometimes you're working where you don't have the mic. Sometimes you're working where you're not. They're not calling your name. You're not the focal point. But believe you me, even though you're not the focal point, what you do is so important that if you didn't do it, some things would not get done. And so understand that fitting in, take yourself out from under that pressure, because sometimes God has you where he wants you to be, and everyone else is getting the glory and getting the glamour. But sometimes God has you working behind the scene to get stuff done. Why? Because your thing it's just as important where you're behind the curtain as opposed to being in front of the curtain at the mic. And you're just as important. Somebody said, why would you say that? When Jesus and when Mary and Martha, when you read in the scripture, it was in the scripture that Martha came to Jesus and and she began to talk about Mary. And Jesus says to Martha, said, you're careful and troubled about many things, but one thing, Mary have chosen the good part that will not be taken away from her, even though she's sitting at my feet, because Martha wanted Mary to come in there and help to get these tables straight. You need to be in here working. You don't need to be over there doing that. You need to come on in here. And when she went to Jesus, he says, Mary has chosen the good part, which will not be taken away from her. Even though she could be doing that and you're doing that, but she's chosen the good part. And that's to sit at my feet and to hear my words. And so sometimes you got to understand that while we are trying to say, well, who's not important, as much as I preach and stuff like that, all that's wonderful, but there's so many that are in ministry that fit in that you may not see them on my live, you may not see them on our feeds for our live broadcasts and our live things on Facebook and YouTube, but they're important. What do you mean? The ushers are important. I don't have to stop and say, I need, take a seat here. The ushers do that. There are people that count the money. They're important. There are people that do the TV ministry. The people that do the sound. They're important. The musicians are important. There are other people that you may not see. I take time to appreciate them. You may not see them all the time, but the effort and what they put forth is important. And so this is why we take ourselves off from under that pressure. Some things may not put you in the limelight. Some things may not put you in the spotlight. So just be comfortable doing what God has called you to do until he shines the light on you. It's like when John baptized Jesus, it was not until the light shined upon him. And he said, this is my beloved son in whom I am what? Well pleased. This is sometimes you got to wait and just not put yourself under that pressure. When God turns the light on, you're going to know it. And you don't have to pressure yourself to be a part. I pray and trust that you're getting something. Let me get to this last one and I'm going to be done. When you fit in, you don't have to push so hard to fit in place God has ordained for you to be. In other words, if you got a puzzle, and I'll close with this. If you've got a puzzle, or if you have a thing with some pieces in it, and the things, the holes have been designed, and you have those things that go in the hole, or you have a puzzle, when you put things in their place, you don't have to push as hard for them to fit. Why? Because that has been open for them to fit. It has been designed to take on what's going in it. And when God places you, when God puts you where he wants you to be, you won't have to go and push. Watch this. You don't have to go and push. You don't have to push nobody out the way. You don't have to take nobody's place. You don't have to dog nobody out to get there. You don't have to go and try to kill somebody's character and reputation so you can get their spot. No. When God, listen at me, when God allows you to be in the place that you need to be, I'm here to tell you that you don't have to go through no changes. God will put you where you're supposed to be. You'll be right where you're supposed to be. You'll fit in. You'll be comfortable until whenever he decides to move you somewhere else. And so I say to you today, I want to encourage every one of you, look right at me. I want to encourage you, if you're in ministry, if you've been in ministry, if you're getting started in ministry, if you've been in it 30 years, 40 years, 50, I don't care how long you've been in. If you've been in it 6 months, if you're passing the church and you've been 6 months in, you've been a year in, you've been 2 years in. I don't care if you've been 30 years in. I don't care if it looked like, I don't know if it's working anymore. I want to tell you, don't put yourself under that pressure. Keep praying and allow God to speak to you, give you directions on what you're supposed to do. And I guarantee you it's going to work for you if you do that. Because you've got to know he's called you, he's anointed you, his hand is on you. And I'm not going to put myself under that kind of pressure. That's what happened to Jeremiah. Jeremiah put himself under pressure. It wasn't God that put him under pressure. He put himself under pressure. He said, Lord, I'm sick. I ain't saying nothing else about you. I ain't calling your name. I ain't going to talk about you. I ain't going to tell nobody about you. I'm sick of this. I'm done. Put himself under pressure. And I want to tell you, oh my God, God bless you, Pastor Taylor. He said, oh my God, I ain't doing this no more. I'm sick of it. And all of a sudden, he said, I started feeling something. He said, what's that? And he said, his word. I started feeling his word all down in my bones, in my joint. I started feeling that thing. Why? Because he says, I was weary with forbearing, but his word, I just couldn't, I couldn't help myself. I had to go tell somebody. When it's a real call, you just can't quit and give up, even though you want to sometimes. But when it's in there, you get yourself out from under that pressure. So I'm just going to do what he told me to do. Jonah's problem was he says, I'm not going down. I don't have a problem with going to Nineveh and telling them what you said. But I know you, God. And I ain't putting myself under that pressure to go down there and tell them in 40 days Nineveh going to be destroyed, and then you turn around and spare them. I'm not doing it. I promise I am not going to do that. No. And I'm going to get me this ticket. I'm going, and I'm not doing that. I'm not even putting myself under that pressure. But when he got down there, God did exactly what he said God was going to do. Why? But he wasn't going to put himself under that pressure. But sometimes what we don't understand is if it's a calling of God, you got to trust God with what he's called you to do. What he's called me to do, well, I don't know if I should say it this way, but I'm going to say it this way. Somebody will get the revelation of this. McDonald's and different places like that, some of them are individually owned. And some of these restaurants and other places, but they're franchised. Basically, when you go into one, you're going into all of them. If you go into Houston's, all Houstons look alike. If you go into most McDonald's, all of them look alike. If you go into Burger King, most all of them look alike. If you go into Walmart, most all of them look alike. If you go into Kroger's, all of them look alike. And the list could go on and on because they are franchised. They are owned. They've got a brand. They do the same thing. But let me submit this to you today. So to take yourself out from under pressure. God has not called us to be franchised. He's not called us to imitate and copy everything everyone else is doing. That's why he called us individually. That's why he made it unique. He called us for a reason and a purpose. And everybody is not called to do the same thing. We're not called to do the same thing. We're not called to reach everybody the same way. Excuse me. Ooh, sorry, y'all. We're not called to reach everybody and do everything the same way. And so I need you to understand that. If you get that, you talking about really focusing in on what he's called you to do and the ministry he called you to do. If you get that, you're going to be so successful in what you're doing. You're going to be happy. You're going to be enthused about ministry again. Your people are going to be excited about ministry. You're going to reach people that you never thought you could reach because now you understand I'm doing what God called me to do and not just what somebody else is doing. And so take yourself out from under that pressure. I promise you. Take yourself out from under that pressure. Do what God called you to do, and you're going to be all right. All right. I pray that this has blessed you. Thank you so much for joining me. See Pastor Taylor. I see, oh my God, I see Cunningham. I see Barbara. Hey, Barbara. I see my cousin. Pastor Evangelist Mary Bradley, I see you. God bless all of you. Thank you so much for joining me today. I pray and trust that this has blessed you. Please do me a favor before you get out of here, before you leave, share this with somebody, and just so somebody, because somebody needs to hear this, they need to understand that you don't have to put yourself under the pressure to fit in. In my closing, I said this on Monday, and I want to share it with you. The Lord gave me this so plain. He said, when you're out front, you're never chasing anybody. When you're out front, you're never chasing anybody. And he said to me, those that are older, if you're 70 years old, you shouldn't be trying to compete and chase anybody 18. If you are 58 like me, I'm not trying to keep up with 18-year-olds and 21-year-olds when it comes to preaching. My body has the miles on it for preaching. So I'm not keeping up. I'm not chasing them. I'm not backing the clock up trying to catch up with them. So you can't back the clock. Take yourself out under that kind of pressure. Minister to the ones God has given you to minister to, and don't try to keep up with somebody 18. Then I want to give you, those of you that are 18, 21, 30, and all the ages, you will never catch up with somebody that's 60 or 70 years old. You'll never catch up with anyone that's 58, 59. Reason you'll never do it is because there's some wisdom that they've gained and some experiences they have that you haven't had at that age, and you're never going to catch them until you won't catch them. You'll have your experiences, but you'll never catch them. You'll never surpass them. You might surpass them in material things. You may surpass them when it comes to stuff like a house or a car, but the wisdom and the knowledge and the experience, you'll never surpass them. It won't happen. I know no one else is going to tell you that, but I'm going to tell you, you ain't going to ever do it. As bright as you are, you're never going to surpass them. Not going to happen. Because they've had experiences that you would never have. It's like a person having a baby. You can read all the books you want about how to raise a child, but you're never going to surpass the rearing of a child from someone that has had children and has reared children and brought them up, and they're up in age. They can tell you stuff that you'll never be able to do. My aunt, she's deceased now. We call her Mama Rose. When my daughter Lena was a little girl, she had a severe cold, and we were getting ready to take her to the doctor. And we were standing at the house, and Mama Rose said she was coughing, and all this stuff was coming up. And Mama Rose said, y'all don't know what y'all doing. Go get me some Castrol. And she got the Castrol, and she said, go get me a teaspoon. Got a teaspoon, and she said, put the fire on. And she put the fire on, warmed that Castrol up a little bit, and she got it and put it in her hand on her fingers and touched my daughter Lena right in the top of her head in that soft spot. She was about almost, she wasn't even 2 years old yet. I think she was a year and something or whatever. And she rubbed that in there. She said, now y'all going about your business. And I guarantee you in about 2 or 3 days, all that stuff came out. I mean, it was gone. It cleared up. She saved us a doctor bill and everything because we didn't know this was our first child. But she had raised children. She was older. She had an experience. She knew stuff we didn't know. She had been down some roads that we hadn't even traveled. And so I say to you, take yourself out under that pressure. Live life to its fullest. Enjoy whatever time you have. Minister to whoever God sends you to. Because at the end of the day, whether you got a title or not, whether you got a big church or not, the only thing that's going to matter is when you close your eyes and get before him. And he says, well done, thy good and faithful servant. Enter into the joys of the Lord. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you today. Thank you so much for joining me. Join me again on next Wednesday. We're going to be talking ministry. We're going to be sharing with you. Once again, I'm so grateful to have you with me. I see you, Lady Nixon. God bless you, Pastor Taylor. All of you, the Lord bless you. Love you, love you, love you. Thank you for joining me. And again, share this with somebody as you go today. The blessing of the Lord be upon you. I bless you in the name of the Lord. And remember these words: your best days are ahead of you and not behind.
Thanks for joining Pastor Martin. Visit us at www.dlmartin.org or email us at rrcdmartin@gmail.com.